Hello everyone, welcome back to the table. I just want to show you a idea I had. I don't know how this will work, but I was actually going to play another Heroes of Normandy from Lock and Load Tactical. I had actually created a my own scenario. I mentioned this last time in kind of in like the prelude to the last game I played. They do actually have, you can get from Lock and Load, or I think they got on Wargame Vaults where I got mine, but there is a battle scenario generator, and it covers like all the modules. And it was $15, but it has like points values for all the units for all their modules. I believe it's all the modules. It's fantastic. It really shows you, just how to set up a mission. And I was going to play that, and then I, for some reason, was looking at all my unused Flames of War stuff that I started to base, and for some reason I just never brought myself to want to play Flames of War. My son really wants to. I just don't have the heart. So I was looking at these miniatures, and I was like, well, they're teams, but if I just paired them up with a counter from Heroes of Normandy, each of these teams in Flames of War could just be a squad here. And then I could just put the squad. So yeah, I was like, well shoot, I'll just stick the squad counter with the miniature, and then I can play this as a miniatures game. Oh, but let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. But the problem then becomes, what do the values represent? Well, okay, the values are the same. So you've got your combat value, range, their movement. This is like assault fire, stuff like that, because it's boxed. Not all are boxed. And then they got their morale. So everything you need is like right there. Could you write it out on the base? Sure. But then it was like, well, what if they take damage? Then there's their shaken. It's like, well, I'll just leave the counter, because I've played lots of miniatures games where you end up with a lot of counters. But I didn't think this would be too bad if you put the counter there with it and get all your combat values. So I thought, well, that's cool. Well, then how do you measure range? Well, here's some thoughts, and then we'll take it to the table. Inches is, I think, too short. So for example, the heavy machine gun over here, MG42, would only have a range of 14 inches. And yeah, in 15 millimeter, I still think that's a short range for that scale. Maybe if you're playing 6 millimeter, this might work out pretty good, actually. But raising the scale was like, I don't know, it seems kind of small. So I thought, well, why don't you play in centimeters? Well, you could just do a factor of 10. So if something was 3, a range of 3, for example, you could say that's 30 centimeters. And that doesn't seem too bad. If you have a slightly bigger table, that might work out really, really good for you, but it still seems kind of long. When we look at the table, I don't know, I was looking at the table, and that means like the MG42 has a range of 140 centimeters, and that takes up a large portion of the table. And that's probably not unrealistic in that scale. Machine guns were designed to shoot far and played very important roles in pinning down entire areas, right? So that would mean when you set up your table as a miniatures game, you're going to want lots of terrain, buildings, hills, things like that. That way maneuver becomes very, very important. And if you're a defender and you're setting up that MG42, you're going to really take some consideration to where your lanes of approach would be to put down your MG42. So that might not be too bad to leave it at a 10-to-1. At the same time, I could probably just go half of that. So MG42, it says range is 14, so I might call that 70 centimeters. So again, we'll look at the table, and then y'all can tell me what you think works pretty good for that. But that way I could use all the values on the counter, and I wouldn't have to make up anything, just kind of convert it over to centimeters. And then now you want to talk about like stacking. Okay, well, I don't literally want to stack a unit on, but I was thinking, well, again, you could just say, well, maybe there's a cohesion of 10 centimeters. It's not too terribly big, but that means if I'm within 10 centimeters of 10 centimeters of my buddy and this gets shot, they have a chance of being shot too because they're in cohesion. But if I was outside that 10 centimeters, then it's limited to that person. So that's how maybe I could do stacking that way. Leadership would work the same way. Leadership is out to 10 centimeters. Because again, in the board game, everything's got to be within that hex. Well, since I don't play with hexes here, I might just say, you know, that 10 centimeters is kind of like one hex. So if I've got a bunch of people bunched up, that would also mean I had to observe the stacking limit. So I could have 3 squads, or, you know, 2 half squads, or 3 squads, and, you know, 2 multi-man counters. Or I could then have, again, kind of within that 10 centimeters, you could have your 2 vehicles, you know. So you could, from say a leader or central point, have everything kind of stuck together-ish, and still kind of maintain that feeling of the game. But, you know, again, we'll have to put it out there, and I probably won't put vehicles out there today. This is just going to be kind of a, does this work well for moving, you know, infantry and stuff like that. But that was just something that kind of came up. So I'm going to include this little intro to the idea here with the play through that I do. And we're going to keep it small. I have a few more squads that are kind of made up, and I got like a couple here off to the side. So I could probably do a couple of platoons with, you know, a mortar or something, and I could make up some more. I got more bases and stuff. It's just that, I don't know, I really lost the interest in putting all the Flames of War, because the game just didn't really interest me. But I could take all of those, make a whole bunch of squads and stuff, and play with lock and load. Let's see how it looks. I'll go set it up, and then I'll bring the camera out. Alright, so a quick look at the table. This is not their initial final placement, but we've got the German forces. So basically it's just kind of a platoon, several squads with a heavy machine gun support and a leader, and the Americans are kind of set up the same way. So they're going to have several squads, their little leader right there, and they had a half squad right here with the machine gun support, and I think I gave them that medium, yeah, the M1919. So they didn't get the 50 cal, but they got a MG42. So I just set up a little bit. I honestly don't have a lot of terrain, because again, I never really quite got into it completely, the whole Flames of War. So I just kind of got a few pieces of stuff here. All right, so trees, if they're, you know, they'll block line of sight, kind of a deal. You know, if you're up by a tree, you're going to be maybe, you know, get 2 cover or something like that. If you were here within this building, that's the larger building, I was going to give that to 4. And then what I could do is say, because these are both stone, these are ruins, but they'll give you the 4 protection, like that's like a red dot building. And then here I've got just some random whatever I found. I have no idea what that's for, but like a little hut thing for another game. But that would be like maybe a black dot. I'll put that there. So I'd give like the 3 for what's in it. And, you know, obviously if I was playing the full 6x4, I would have to put the paperwork elsewhere. But for now, just to kind of proof of concept, got the charts and things there, dice tower, and then all the admin markers we might need. Okay, so let me arrange these out a little bit better, and then we'll see how this looks to try and play it. Maybe move a tree over here. Alright, so be right back. Alright, so first kind of thought process here was what constitutes within range, and I was trying to, you know, said 10 centimeters or whatever. That spreads them out kind of far, and I played around like maybe with a, you know, a base width from each other, so there's a little bit of space, just so it doesn't look like a parking lot of people. But I think what might work best for now is just to say if they're touching base, then they're moving as a group. So if they're shooting together, you know, they get their bonuses. If they're being shot at, it's all. And then if there's gaps, you know, then they're kind of close, but they're technically, this is not part of that stack. So that might be, for me, easiest to go, is if they're grouped and touching, that's a stack. You know, yes, if I had a couple of vehicles supporting them, it would look like just one big group going, but at least I would be able to tell easily, you know, who's part of a group and who's not. So this gives me a little bit of moving out. You know, I got a couple flankers, but then for purposes of like rally and stuff like that, since they're all touching, and the leader's right there with them, he can influence them for their checks. Now, if you had, I think if your leader has like a 2 leadership, it can be like 2 hexes out or something like that. So if I have leaders with, I don't know what the leadership on the German is, but I might have to account for that. So, if I had someone nearby, I don't think he can rally that person, but leadership modifier bonuses could count for this person, like as far as shooting. So, just some things to think about. For now, we'll just check how this as a stack is. Again, I don't know if I like the look of it, but, it's something to play with. Then for the Germans, similar, they got a couple flanker squads, and then they've got their machine gun. They're both in bipod mode, so they can move with the machine guns. Their MG42 can fire on the move, and the American M1919 can't. So they have a little bit of a firepower advantage with the MG42. And otherwise, we'll just kind of move up. I didn't place an objective marker or anything like that. We're just going to kind of move. Now, I do have, tape measures, but since I'm filming with one hand, I can't find my tripod. I lose everything. I got a new camera stand to film with in the other room, but now I can't find the tripod. I'm going to hold this with one hand. But, not to despair, I've got this ruler with centimeters. So, if we're going to, I just tripped over something. So if we're going to move, I can just lay this out, and hopefully we'll do this with one hand. Alright, let's get set up here to play. I'm going to lay out my papers a little bit better here. Alright, so we're right here on the rally phase. We're just going to roll for initiative. The German player got 2. It's a tie. Since I'm not doing a scenario, we'll just re-roll. Okay, so Germans are first. That's cool. So we'll go over there, we'll move them. So we're going to start with the alternating of activations. And I'm just going to bring the tray of admin markers. So as we do something, I can then mark them with a fire or move or whatever. Okay, so first things first. Like, let's say I'm going to move just this squad here. Now, by doing that factor of 10, 4, that'd be 40 centimeters they could move. But problem is, like, that's 40 centimeters. That seems like a lot to move. A lot of games, infantry is moving like maybe 6 inches, kind of a thing. So that seems a lot. So kind of going back to the idea of maybe half that. So if they got 4 movement, it's like 20 centimeters. Now, that's about 8 inches of movement. That to me, I think that's probably a little better, probably a little more manageable. So that kind of put them just shy of the tree. So let's say we did that. They're going to move up. They're just shy of the tree. Yeah, sorry if filming with one hand seems very shaky because I'm trying to manage a few things. Bear with me. Remember, we're just trying a little proof of concept. So I'm going to mark them with a move. So they're done. So now, if we come back over here, then the Americans, now honestly, the Americans are pretty close to that first structure. So what they're going to do is he's going to activate and move the group. So the nice thing being that they're kind of on this here together, I can just push it. But since they are with the leader, they could double time. Now that would mean out to 30 centimeters. That's pretty good if they're running. So 30 centimeters, let's flip it this way. So they're going to get approximately from there out to about there. Okay, we'll do that. So we won't have made it there, but at least that's kind of like blocking. Okay, so we'll do that. Push up. Was right about here. So now they're up, and that whole unit gets marked with moved. So they're done. All right. So now Germans kind of got a similar situation here. They've got, still have a few things to move. So what do they want to do? Well, they got a spot over there they could try and get to. They can do the same thing. They can move. They got their leader who's, what, his movement is 6, so yeah, that'd be 30 centimeters as well. So if I lay this out, 30 centimeters, I'm going to go from the lead unit there. I'll put them right about there with that lead unit on their way to the house. And there's some flame and smoke in the way. Let me see. I'm trying to look for a landmark so I can guess where 30. It's at the end of this brown. Okay, here we go. So they move up right about here. Yeah, now that is one thing. The game does not have anything specific about the double movement as far as do you have fatigue or some kind of penalty for double move. As far as I could tell just by reading, they just run, they get up there with the leader, and now they've got that. Alright, so now we do have two squads, and if I look, so this is what was kind of cool about, with like miniatures, is if that squad wanted to shoot, they really can't see the Germans. Like through the doorway, through the rubble, that's not really going to do them much good. So they are going to move up to that tree right here. Let's see, can I do this with one hand here? Not very well. So they got a movement of 4, so that would be 20 centimeters. Okay, let's see. 20 centimeters puts it right about here. Maybe I can do this way. Again, sorry, no tripod, just humor me. Alright, so move them up to 20. They get a moved. Alright. And we're making it work. Alright, what are they going to do? Well, they need to move up too. And again, they got movement of 4, so that'd be about 20 centimeters. They're going to come out and flank. So they're going to go up towards that tree. So they're kind of moving up. And they get to move. Now they're out in the open. So not a good place to be. Alright, so that's his squads. Okay, we got one more American squad to move over here. Uh, 20. Yeah, they can hit that tree. So right now, they're going to get cover benefit from that tree. Oop, just hit it with the ruler. There you guys go. Now, they don't have a sight, like I would say they could shoot out of that hex, quote unquote, but they don't have anybody they can see at. They've got some guys down there behind that tree, but I'd say that tree is kind of blocked because they haven't actually touched the tree, so that's kind of blocking. And then again, that house is in the way, so I would say that would be the end of a turn. So I'd mark him with a move. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the admin markers, and then we'll start with initiative. But see here though, yeah, we would have done pass back and forth because all our units have done something. So we'll do the admin phase right now, and then we'll come back with initiative and then start again. Alright, here we go. So we're back top of the rally phase. First thing we're going to do is check for initiative. There's no healing or rally that we need to do or anything like that. So just go for initiative. And again, German player gets initiative. They got a 6. Alright, well we got some move markers. And I can see right away that we're going to move the big German mess here up to the house. Now there's more folks than room in the house. But what we'll do is just try to move them in as best we can. Now this is where you might have to talk to your opponent and say, yeah, they're in the house. So just move them up as best you can, touching the house. So even though they're on the outside, you just say, well, they're in the structure. So they moved up as a group. They didn't use all their movement, but they are now in the house. Then We'll do the same thing. Now, again, because short game, they're going to move up here. That way we can start shooting at each other here in just a moment. But we're going to move them to the house as good as we can. Hello, house. Hello, house, my old friend. I've come to live in you again. And there they are. Boom. And they get a move. Awesome. Okay, then we got to flip back to the German player. Now they were just so close to touching that tree, but there's a better... I just knocked over a tree over here. There's actually, for that 20, they can move into this shack. And they are now in the shack. And I'm going to put this move with them. I guess I can see it on the outside, but they now own that space and can shoot out. Okay. Then the American player. Well, they're going to get to this tree. I'm just leaving this right at 20, so they can easily reach that tree. So now they've got the 2 protection we mentioned earlier, and they can look out and see. So they can actually shoot into the house. They'll get a little protection back, so not a good spot, especially if they get shaken, then they're out of the fight. Otherwise, the leader in that house is going to have to come running over here to rally them. So hopefully they be okay. Now, same here. They're going to push up. They got plenty of room. They're going to get to that tree for protection. Boom. And then I've got... They reached a tree. Now the problem is, where do they go? They might stay here, because they're going to have... They got a range of 5, so that'd be 25 centimeters. Let me pull this out to 25. That's not super good range. Ah, jeez. 5 for 50 would be good. So this is where you got to decide what's the difference between movement rates and the firing ranges, because rifles shoot far. Machine guns shoot far. That's why I say in the machine guns, once they're in place, they can set up a huge area of denial. But with these ranges, if I keep it at half, so that'd be 50, I might keep the ranges at a 10-to-1 factor and then movement at half. That might work. Again, it doesn't give you a whole lot of math or conversion with the numbers on the counters. So let's go ahead and shoot this out for 50. Because if it's a range 5, that's 30, 40, and 50. Now, that's what they're shooting with rifles. That to me seems better. That to me works better. So it is just shy of that little shack there. So they had to push up a little bit closer, but they're going to have to cross the open in order to get over there. This is where I'd have to read my rules for smoke. Then I could like place smoke out here somewhere. But I don't want to read the rules for smoke. So we might just have them run and try to get the protection of that tree. So, since it's their turn, 20 sticks them out right about here. So we're going to come out there and pop them with a moved. That's risky, but that's everybody. Okay, so we're going to admin counter, and then we will do initiative and come back. But now I've got people in position, we can start shooting and see how that works. I forgot to hit the record button. So I was talking and explaining something, but I guess I didn't hit record. Alright, so that might mean there might be a little bit of missing play time. So let me see if I can get you caught up. I deployed their machine guns for the Americans and the Germans, and then I checked range from the house. The German player here has a range of 30 centimeters, which is enough range to reach this tree, where we're going to shoot first. So with the deployed gun, 3 machine gun factor. It's a half squad, so they don't add their firepower. So 3, but they will all add their half. So 3, 4, 5, 1 for the leadership. So that's a 6 firepower total right there. Then the defense of 2. So I don't have my little tracker dice, but let's see if we can remember this. Okay, so that's 9 firepower for the German player, 5 defending points for the American player, because it was, well, 4, because it's 2 for the tree, plus their 2 for their roll. And I don't have adjacent targets. I don't think I have any other. They're not currently marked with moved, so they weren't moving at this point, so they don't get like a move penalty. So I think that means I had 9 attack, 4 defense. That's a difference of 5. So now we got to do the damage check. So I'm going to add this die roll. 2 plus 5 is 7. And their morale is 6. So even though they're behind this tree, it wasn't enough to keep them from going shaken. So again, the problem with that is, if I want to rally them, I'm going to have to run the leader from this group all the way out. So leaders are important in creating your stacks. So even though a stack can get hit and everybody will be attacked, the leader there can also try to help rally everybody. So again, important considerations there. All right, now what do? Marking them with fired. So this German group, boom, lit up that squad. All right, well, I think the American player is going to return fire. This time, though, they're going to attack into the structure. Now, they did deploy, so they have enough range with their deployed machine gun, and the rifle range is 50 centimeters. So, yeah, the American rifles definitely can reach. All right, so we got to do the same thing here. Add up the firepower. So off of the deployed machine gun, well, it only has 2 firepower, 2, and they will contribute 1 each for the squad. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So they get to add 5 to their attack, but the German player gets to add 4 to the defense because they're in that stone structure. So we roll. So the American player gets a grand total of 10, and the German player has a grand total of 7. So that's a difference of 3. Now we're going to check for. Now I got to roll. Yeah, I think I take that 3, and then everybody in there is going to roll for the 3. I think that I was doing it wrong before. I think I did a separate attack roll for everybody, but I think that one defense I roll is for the whole group, but now I make a separate damage check for each person with that difference of 3. So let's bring the tower over here, and we'll see what kind of damage we cause in here. First, we're going to do the leader last, because he can give his leadership modifier to their defense roll. He subtracts from it. So they're going to roll a die 6, add that difference of 3, and see if they roll under the. If they roll over the morale, then they shake. Okay, so we subtract 1, so that'd be 4, plus my difference of 3 would be 7. So like this squad shakes. Now the only problem is having them all in the house like that. It's hard to get at their little counters. Okay, now the half squad is a morale of 6. Oh, they're fine. In fact, damage check of 1. Normally this is where we roll for a hero. Rolled an even, they would generate a hero, but since I'm just proof of concepting how this plays in miniature, I'm going to forego the hero creation. So they pass. So even if I subtract 1 overall, add the 3, 4, they're fine. Then we'll check this squad here. 2 plus that 3 is 5, and then subtract 1 for leader, so they're fine. Then the leader, 6 plus 3 is 9, subtract 1 for his leadership, he shakes. Or actually he goes wounded. Well, shaken, they shake. I think heroes go right to wounded, but he goes shaken, and if he gets shaken again, like I think he goes wounded. So yeah, that's not good for them. Ouch. So there we go. Americans trying to shake them up a bit. Already marked them with fired. Alright, so that was the firing for the American player. So the German player. Now he's got these folks here, but again, they have those not so good rifles with a range of 30. So that puts us here. They can't shoot anything. And the dice tower is not actually on the field. What we could do though is, well, I can't really move up because I don't want to overstack, but I could move out here behind. So as long as they're not adjacent, he's outside the house. But then he's got out in the open line of sight this way. This is just decorative smokes. That's not really there. So wherever he goes, he's going to be out in the open, but he's ineffective right now. Okay, that unit, because it's shaken, I forgot about that. They're shaken. So we're going to come out, flank, and capture because they have no way to rally. That's what we're going to do. So they can move 20. All right, I am starting to dig this. And we're going to flank. Now, hopefully, I think we're still in range because the American firepower has quite a bit of reach, but they're going to try and come out and flank. Now, I know that puts them in the open a little bit, but if they can make that tree in a turn or two, they will have captured their first Americans. Okay, so now we're going to come back. So the Americans have done something there. They're not doing anything because they're shaken. So this here, they're going to move up the rest of the way to the tree. So they're going to get them moved. So they're there now. And they've got that 2 protection. Now, the Germans in the little shack, they actually now can fire. And they've got a 30 range. Ooh. That 30 range, just barely, that tree is in range. So they're going to get 2 protection for that tree. Now it is just 1 squad, firepower 3. Alright, well, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so firepower 3, defensive 2. Okay, German 12, this is good for the German player. So they're going to take 6 plus 3 is 9. 1 plus 2 is 3. That's a difference of 6. Those guys are shaken. So let's roll their damage check. So, well, it's a 7. They could have rolled a lot better. Again, that would have been an opportunity for a hero check, but they're just going to get shaken instead. No heroes. Oh, man. And then the dudes in that shack are going to get fired. Fire! Oh. Alright, that's everybody. So I'll clear up admin, then we'll come back and do initiative, and then we'll check rally. Okay, so if I'm doing this right, we are going to roll for initiative. Alright, so again, German player gets initiative again. So I think this is top of turn 4. Now, they're going to make their rally checks here first. That's the only German units I need that can check for rally. So we check for the leader. Now, they're in the terrain, so they get -2 to their roll. And so far the leader doesn't get to modify it yet, so we always check for leader first. So subtract 2. So it's 2 dice, sorry, 2 dice minus the 2. Oh yeah, so he rolled 4 minus 2, so the leader rallies. Sorry terrain, keep bumping that. Then in here they get the -2 for terrain, -1 for leader, so -3 from their roll. So they rolled an 8, -3 is a 5. So that Fallschirmjäger unit also rallies. So they are back up to snuff. Now, no other German units were shaken at the moment. Now the Americans, we could have done alternating rally, but because the leader units, they're leaderless. So that squad doesn't have a leader to check in that squad. Yeah, my only criticism with the game. But, you know, if you're going to play, you can always house rule something. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, they're a squad. Don't squads inherently have a leader? And this extra dude is like the platoon sergeant and whatnot. They should be able to self-rally. But them's the rules. So they're shaken, and none of them were shaken. All right. But now that we're done with that, we can move into alternating actions. And I think the German player here now is going to turn their attention to the house. So they're going to again do the fire base around the deployed MG42, so that's 3. Add half firepower for the squad, so 3, 4, 5. Add 1 for him, so it's +6. They get a defense bonus of 4 for the house. So let's see here. So if I just take the difference and say, well, add 2, because the difference of 6 to 4, so 4 to 2. So that's a difference of 2. That means they're going to make a damage check, but they have to add 2. So let's see what happens here. Let's bring this around. We'll roll the American die. So we're going to check for all the units here. Start that squad. So 5 plus 2 is 7. So that actually shakes them. The squad back in the corner, again, is 7. So they're shaken. Try and move that so you can see. And then we check, oh, I should be subtracting 1, right, for the leadership. So actually both of those I said were 7. Subtract 1, that's why we do the leader last. Can't forget the leader bonus. That means they were actually rolling 6s. That means both of them passed. They're not shaken. Then the heavy machine gun unit, 4 minus 1 is 3. So they survive. And then the leader, unless he rolls really bad, well, or if you don't roll into the, 6, well, 6 minus 1 is a 5. So actually he's still pretty good. Yeah, I don't think any of them were going to get shaken. So wait, we were adding 2 minus 1. Actually he did, because 6, we add 2, that'd be 8 minus his 1. So actually the leader did get shaken. I forgot to add the damage check penalty. Okay, well the leader got shaken, no problem. So that will mean the German unit gets marked with a fired. Now this American unit is the only one left in action, and they've got this house on lockdown. So they're going to return fire. The problem is, return fire at who? Shooting house to house is not always the best. So they're going to try and shoot way out to this German squad in the open. Now remember, the Americans have a 50-centimeter range. Quite the advantage over their German counterparts. So this is set to 50, and it reaches the house. So the American player is going to try and lay them out before they can reach this here American squad. So they're going to try and help their buddies out, which is a good choice simply because leader went down, they don't get to add their leadership bonus. So 2 for the machine gun, 3 for a squad, 4. So they add 4 to their attack roll, and the German player out in the open adds nothing. So this is a grand total of 7 versus 4, so that's 3 to the damage check. So we need to roll really low for the German player. 4 plus 3 is 7, which is greater than the morale. So the American player saves their entrapped squad, pins the German unit, gets marked with a fired. Alright, so now that they're shaken, they can't do anything. Marked fired, marked fired. My 2 American squads are shaken. That leaves 1 squad over here for the German player. They're going to go ahead and fire into that tree. So they had a 3 firepower. So we're going to add 3, and then the Americans still have that 2 defense for the tree. Well, that's a difference of 1. Because we add, well, 3 plus 3 is 6, 3 plus 2 defense, that's 5. So we're going to add 1 to the damage check. So 1, potential for a hero, not having it, so 2. So they don't get any worse. And that would be the end of the turn. Nice. Marked with fired. Well, we'll end it there. Because again, this wasn't the full game, this was just kind of a, how would this work? I think it works pretty good. I think if I fleshed out more of a scenario and then had more terrain and then maybe gave some objectives, couple more leaders, you know, so we could actually split the forces up. That plays pretty good, I think. That's kind of fun. And I think if I keep that movement ratio, like I said, do the 2 to 1 or half, so take their move value and just kind of take half of that in centimeters, pretty good movement. Not too, you're not shooting halfway across the board in one bound, but then keep the firing range at that 10 to 1. So if it's a factor of, you know, 14, that's 140 centimeters. So yeah, that's a, you know, clearly half the board, but I think an MG42 on a tripod would have that, and that's why the terrain would be so important, because that would be important for the defender with that MG42 to set up those lanes of fire and really think about where he's placing his weapon teams. And then the person advancing on that would have to think about how to move and make flanking an important part of the, you know, the attempt to take over that machine gun nest. So I think that's what we'll do. And then, I mean, I don't know, until I think of something better, the base-to-base contact to determine if it's a stack probably is what I'll stick with for the moment. Seems to work okay as far as determining, you know, the firepower group and then leadership modifier. So all in all, I think that's a good experiment. Plus, it's not super cluttered with markers like I thought it would be. Yeah, it kind of looks like there's a bunch of markers because there's one, you know, for each stand, but that's your combat values. I'm sure if there was a player much smarter than I, you could probably have just the marker off to the side and just somehow mark the squads you have deployed as, you know, what that is on the base somehow, and that way you can just compare it. I don't know, there's probably ways I could do it better to mark the stands as to what their value is, and then, you know, the little page I would have would show, I think there was one here, but you could have, no, I don't have one, but, you know, if I had I could just have like two markers here, you know, I could say, oh, okay, well, off to the side, that way there's no marker here on the board, but I know that that's my 254 squad. So, you know, 254 when they're good. And then, yeah, but I'd still want to have a marker that says they're shaken. I don't know. I might just leave it like that. I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I think when I have a chance, I'll play this like with my son and see what he thinks. Because he kind of likes the lock and load, but he really likes miniatures. So this kind of combines both. So we'll give that a shot. I don't know. Leave your thoughts. What do you think? Good experiment, bad experiment? What would you do for taking those board game rules and converting it to, you know, the table? Like, what would you do? You know, and maybe one day we'll come up with a nice community set of rules, I think. Actually, the rules are pretty much there, right? You just kind of got to put it on the board. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.